Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I have been in a reading slump in July, August, and September. I am getting out of it, but I did want to talk about the books I did read in those months. It wasn't a lot, but I like to document all the books I read on my channel. And since there's not a lot of books, I'm gonna tell you whether or not they worked for me to get me out of my reading slump and if I think they will work for you. So yeah, let's start with some stats. So in July, I didn't finish anything. I did start some books, but I didn't finish anything. In August, I finished one book. And then in September, I finished 4. And right now, I've already finished 3 books and I'm slowly making my way through the 4th one. So I'm not, I haven't been reading as much as I'm used to before the reading slump, but that's okay. As long as I'm reading, I'm happy about it. So let's start with the stats, like I said. So I finished 5 books in total, and that equates to 1,354 pages. I had 1 2-star, 2 3-stars, 1 4-star, and 1 5-star. The average rating is a 3.4, so that is very much lower than my usual average rating. Then I had 4 adult novels and 1 young adult novel. I read 1 sci-fi book and 4 romances. Of those 4 romances, 1 was a sports romance, 1 was a sci-fi romance, 1 was a historical romance, and 1 was a paranormal romance. I read 3 novels and 2 novellas. And as far as goals are concerned, I did listen to 1 audiobook, so I'm slowly making my way through that goal. I do think I can accomplish that goal by the end of the year. For the other goals, I didn't really make any progress. So as always with my reviews, I'm gonna start with my lowest rated book and work my way up to my highest rated book. So starting with the 2-star read is Ensnared by the Werewolf by Lillian Lark. So right off the bat, I do have to say that I do think my reading slump heavily affected this book, because it took me way too long to read for a 70-page novella. Since that was the case, I spent more time with these characters than necessary. I think if I just finished this in one sitting, maybe this would have been 3 stars, although I don't think it would have gotten anything more. I love werewolf romances, and this just didn't work for me as a werewolf romance. Okay, so let me talk about the premise first. So basically, this is a series of all different monsters finding their fated mates. And you follow a witch who is doing her thing. She has a shop and where she sells witchy stuff, and she also helps people with curses or with other spells, like breaking curses, but also other spells. And one day this werewolf shows up at her door saying that he's been cursed and that he needs her help to lift the curse. And while she's helping him, they both realize that they're fated mates. Also, what I also wanted to say, every book I'm talking about, I did mention in my reading slumps vlogs. I did 2 of those, so I'll leave those linked for you. So if you want more of my in-depth thoughts, check out that vlog. So I felt like she spent way too much time on the plot, which is breaking the curse, and not enough time on building the romance. And I get that authors get a free pass for fated mates romances, where obviously they're fated together. You don't have to spend as much time working on the believability of the romance, but you do have to put in some effort, and I didn't feel like that work was done in this book. You cannot just say they're fated mates and leave it at that. Like, you have to actually build the romance. I have to believe in their romance, and that just didn't happen in this book. That is mainly all my problems with the book, which obviously this is a romance. I have to first and foremost believe in the romance, and especially in a novella, I don't really have any interest in a big plot in a novella. I just want a quick romance, I guess. I am interested in reading more in this series because this is the 2.5 novel, and this is the first book I read in the series. And you can read them without having read the other ones, but I do want to go back and especially read Deceived by the Gargoyles, because they were mentioned a lot in this novella, and then try and read the other books too. Would I recommend this one if you're in a reading slump? I guess, well, first of all, I would recommend novellas, so I guess in that way I would recommend it, but I would honestly recommend better werewolf romances, and even better fated mate novellas or better werewolf novellas. So off the top of my head, I would say I would recommend Mating the Huntress by Talia Hibbard or The Witch's Wolves. I think those two are better novellas if you're in a reading slump and you want like a quick, fun werewolf good time. Moving on to my 3-star read. I had 2 3-star reads, and both were physical books actually. And I would say honestly, I mean, obviously it depends on the reader you are, but I am a person who reads ebooks faster than physical books. And obviously I love reading physically, but actually picking up a book, whereas I usually read my ebooks while I'm already on my laptop and read it on my laptop. So that takes less of an effort to actually read a couple chapters than actually picking up your book, and like that takes more of a conscious effort, I guess. So if you're a similar type of reader, I would say stay away from physical books for a little bit and try and see if reading ebooks will get you out of your reading slump. But obviously if that doesn't apply to you, then obviously still read physically. So the first 3-star read was Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. Once again, it took me way too long to read this book. I don't remember actually how many pages or how many days, but I believe I started this in July and I ended up finishing it in August, so definitely over a month. Whereas this is not that long. It's like a little bit, it's like 250 pages. So definitely not. It definitely didn't need to be read in a month. Okay, so it is winter again. That means my lighting is annoying again, or it's starting to get, it's not winter yet, but anyway. So Ice Planet Barbarians, for those of you who don't know, is this human woman who gets abducted by aliens along with a bunch of other women. The bad aliens leave them on this ice planet and they plan to collect them. And Georgie, our main character, gets sent out into the wilderness to try and find the rest of the girls some food or anything that could help them. And while she is out exploring on this ice planet, she runs across this blue alien and she passes out. And then she wakes up by him eating her out. And basically they're fated mates. So it's Vectel and Georgie, and at first they don't speak the same language. And then in this planet, you can get injected by like a kui, with a kui. If you're injected with that, you can inhabit this planet. Like you won't die, and that will also help you find your fated mate. So obviously Vectel and Georgie are fated mates, and this I liked, and I can definitely see how this could work if you're in a reading slump and want to get out of it. But I found Georgie to be quite annoying. I just don't think these two are my couple. Although I do understand obviously why they were the first couple. I think other couples in this series will be more my speed. I haven't read a whole lot of alien romances, but the one I love is Toxic Love, I guess. No. Let me see. Toxic Desire, and that is like literally, they are literally enemies, but they're on this planet, like that makes them horny, I guess. Ridiculous, I know. Anyway, yeah, do I have any other thoughts? Yeah, it was mainly this couple that I was not that big a fan of, and also this was the very, very start of my reading slump, so I do think that also played a big factor in me giving this 3 stars. I think if I read this on a regular day, I would have gotten through this faster and it might have been a higher rating. Then The Score by Elle Kennedy. So this is the 3rd book in the Off-Campus series. For those of you who don't know, the first book, The Deal, it was one of my favorite books last year. I absolutely loved The Deal. And I read the first 2 last year. And this I read this year. I do have to say, while reading this, I was not really in the mood for a just hookup story. So because of things that were happening in my own life, like a story where there was no real commitment. Like I said, something similar was happening in my life, and that maybe played a part in me not really enjoying this. So basically you follow Allie and Dean has been this playboy. He has basically fucked a different girl every night almost. And everybody really knows what they're getting when they're getting together with Dean, which is not commitment. And Allie is Hannah's best friend. So Hannah was the main character in the first book. So Allie and Dean have been around each other because their friends are dating. Allie recently broke up with her boyfriend, but her ex-boyfriend has been pretty stalkerish a little bit. So Garrett suggests that she stay at his place so that her boyfriend will not know where she is. And while she's there, Dean is also there, and they end up having a one-night stand, and Dean cannot get her out of his mind because obviously she's the only girl who didn't want him or didn't want a second date with him or a second round with him. So he kind of pursues her, but she tells him she's not the type of girl who will just do like a fling without like no attachment type thing, but she also cannot stop thinking about him. So they decide, eventually she gives in and they enter in this no strings relationship. Or like, yeah, I guess. So they basically have sex. I don't know if they agree to be exclusive. I don't know. And then eventually this turns into love. Yeah, this is just not really my favorite type of story. Or at least I wouldn't say that. I have read player books before and I did love them. But at the time I was reading it, this was just not the right story for me. And yeah, probably also the reading slump may have something to do with it. But just comparing this couple to the couple from The Deal, but also the couple from The Mistake, I just found myself not really rooting for them that much. I did obviously really love seeing the side characters, and I am excited about the fourth book. And I'm actually excited to finish this series because I am looking forward to reading different books from Al Kennedy. But yeah, this is just not my favorite. I do know a lot of people really love Dean. I can definitely see why, but at the time of reading this, not really my type of hero. But I would say Al Kennedy is a great one if you're in a reading slump, because you fly through her books. There are some hot sex scenes, but it's not too much, and it's basically just like a regular length story, like between 300 and 400 pages. Yeah, especially the first book, in my opinion, is a great one to get out of a reading slump. But yeah, or for example, what's that book called? Top Secret, which is a MM romance by her and Serena Bowen, I think is also a very good one to get out of your reading slump because it's very short and very hot. Moving on to the 4-star read, which was King Size by Jessa Kane. This, to me, was perfect to read in a reading slump. And I do think Jessa Kane's books or novellas are great to read in a reading slump because they're so unhinged that it's so easy to suspend your disbelief for her stories. And they basically follow the same plot beats. The guy is from the beginning a simp for his heroine. He's head over heels in love with her right away. They have sex pretty early on, and then they just keep having sex basically. But this one did feel like it had more of a substance to it. You follow this guy who's a royal guard for this princess, and he basically became a guard because he saw her one day and he fell in love with her, and then he did everything in his power to become her guard. But then her parents die and he hears her crying in her room, and then he enters and he consoles her. And basically that is how their romance starts. So it's a princess bodyguard romance. It's a forbidden romance, obviously. Like, obviously it's insta-love, insta-lust. It's everything insta, but you know that going into a Jessa Kane novella, and I was obviously fine with that. I did enjoy this story, and this guy was not as unhinged as other novellas I read by her. So honestly, like I said, I would recommend any Jessa Kane novella if you're in a reading slump. And last but most certainly not least is my 5-star read, and it's Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. So first of all, this was a reread, and in general, I would say if you're in a reading slump, start rereading some books. I wish I had reread more books because I do think that probably would have made a difference for me. But also this type of story, which is a story with mixed media elements. Well, this is all mixed media, honestly. And this one also had an amazing audiobook. So what I did and what I would recommend doing, and what probably everybody would recommend doing, is listening to the audiobook while reading this book. And that to me is a great way to get out of the reading slump, because this book is what finally did it for me. I finished this really fast, and then the second book, which I read in October, or finished in October, I read even faster. So basically Illuminae is an interesting story. So it's a sci-fi novel about Ezra and Katie. They are the main characters. They broke up on the day their planet got invaded or got attacked, and now they are basically refugees, and they communicate to each other through like emails or text messages, and they realize something is up. People have been lying, and it's basically their job to kind of save the planets or the universe, I guess. There's a rogue AI that is murdering people. Like I said, it was This felt like a breath of fresh air. I do think that obviously the audiobook really helped. I'm not an audiobook girly, but I did love this audiobook because it was full cast and it was an interesting, like, since this was all mixed media, it made like all the sound effects really brought the story to life for me. The first time I read this, I read it just physically, and I did remember, I think I gave it 4 stars or 5 stars, I don't remember, but I didn't love it as much as I love it now because I also listened to this on audiobook. Also, I also love it obviously because it got me out of my reading slump, but this just felt so immersive. I immediately read the second book, which I didn't do the last time around. So the second book was was the first time I read it this time. And I am planning on finishing this series as soon as I can because I really, really loved it. This is an amazing book to get out of your reading slump. And in general, I think mixed media books are great to get out of your reading slump, and especially mixed media where you have a good audiobook is a great way to get out of your reading slump. So a couple books that come to mind are the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, for example. That one has a lot of mixed media and also a great audiobook. Another one, also like a mystery element, I think is good to help you because at least if you're not intrigued with the romance or the plot, or like at least a mystery will keep you turning the pages because at the very least you want to know, what happened. So this also had a mystery element. Obviously the Good Girl's Guide to Murder had a mystery element. I am looking up another book that I cannot remember right now, Murder in the Family. That one also has a great audiobook. It's mixed media. So yeah, those kinds of books I think are great to get you out of your reading slump. Yeah. So those were all the books I read in the last 3 months. Definitely let me know in the comments below and let everybody else know what are great books that have gotten you out of a reading slump, or what are books that you think could get other people out of a reading slump. Leave all those in the comments below. And yeah, look forward to an actual monthly wrap up at the end of the month. And if you're down there, leave me what signifies a reading slump? Leave me some sort of like clock or time emoji because it did feel like this reading slump took forever. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.